Hi everyone. In this video we are going to see how to deploy .NET applications to Amazon EC2 instance. So we'll be deploying the .NET application from Visual Studio using web deploy. So we'll see how to provision an instance and how to configure it for web deploy to work. So I'm in the AWS management console now. So let's quickly provision an EC2 instance. So as I'm deploying a .NET Framework application, I'll select Windows Server 2019 base AMI. For this one, I'll go with t2.micro instance. I keep the rest of the options as default. So for security group, I already have an existing security group. Just make sure whatever security group you use, you have the inbound traffic open on port 80, and for RDP you need port 3389 enabled. And for this one, currently I have made it open for the rest of the ports as well. So, and I'll just select an existing key pair I have. So if you don't have, you can just create your new key pair, which is used for decrypting the password. And hit the launch instance. So my instance is now launching. So it may take 3 to 4 minutes for the instance to launch and for password option to be enabled. So I just pause the video till then. So my instance is now running. So I just connect to it. I use an RDP client, a remote desktop. So this one, first I have to get the password, and for that I need to supply the file which I selected. I just select it and decrypt password. So just download the RDP file. I just copy and note this password down somewhere. And we'll now connect to our instance. So before deploying the application, we need to get the instance ready. We need to install a few things. So we are going to do just that right now. So in your virtual machine, you can just go to server manager. And so just one point to note, whatever steps I'm going to do now, it's not anything specific to maybe AWS EC2 instance. So I can use any virtual machine running on Windows Server and I can perform similar steps, whether it is in AWS, Azure or Google Cloud or any cloud provider. So basically the steps might be the same. You need to install the same things. And one more thing I might show you, we need the Microsoft Web Deploy agent installed on this machine. So just search for Microsoft Web Deploy. So you will get this link, Web Deploy 3.6. So you can open this link in the virtual machine also and install this extension, or you can just download it, the x64 version. So it's already downloaded in my desktop. So what I can do is I can just copy it and I can just paste it in my virtual machine which I provisioned. Till the time it is copied, that's open server manager, and we'll have to click on add roles and features. Click on next. We'll go with role based feature based installation. Just select the local server. And here just select web server IIS. Click add features. And this one, make sure you have .NET 4.7 selected. Click on next. In this screen you get, we have to make sure the few options are selected. So in the security, make sure you have basic authentication selected. And then go to application development. Sure you have .NET extensibility 4.7. By default select some other features also. You also make ASP.NET 4.7 selected here. And also select the management service that you see here. Let me just go to so make sure everything is selected, and you just click on install. So it might take some time to install. As you can see, it is starting the installation. So let me pause the video for the time being. So as we can see, the installation is now succeeded. Let me just close this window. And we'll install this web deploy file which I copied earlier. Just double click on it. And just select complete. So all the features are installed. So you just wait for it to be installed. It's not installed. So what we'll do right now is just reboot this instance once. So let me just log off from the instance, go to the management console. I just select reboot instance, and so it might take a few minutes for it to be rebooted. So we just give it a few minutes. So my instance is now rebooted, and I have logged into the instance again. And just to make sure, go to run command and type inetmgr. So you can see that the IIS manager is now installed. We are in the web console. Just to double sure that you are able to connect your instance through HTTP, what I'll do is I'll just copy the public IP address. Let's just try to hit it. And you can see we are getting the default IIS page. You can see our IIS is now running successfully. So we just need to configure it a bit more. So just select the machine name. Here select the management service, and make sure you this enable remote connections is selected. If it is not, then probably you can just stop this service, just enable it again and apply and start the same. So this is very essential, make sure this is selected and checked. Other thing what we'll do is just go to authentication and make sure basic authentication is enabled. Just enable it. Well, this is enabled as well. Let's refresh. Now I'll go to the sites. Just delete this default website for the time being. And what we'll do is we'll add a website. Let's just name it my sample app. In the physical path, we'll just create a new physical folder. I'll create it inside C drive, inetpub, www-root. Create a new folder and name it my sample app. This is selected and we will be running on port 80 only. So just click on OK. So you see your site is ready. So for web deploy, what we can do is just right click. You have a deploy option here. This is due to the web deploy agent we installed. And we'll select configure web deploy publishing. So by default, it is going to give you some of the options and it will generate a file. You just click on setup. If you see, it has publish enabled for admin user, it has granted iOS manager permissions on this one. And if I go to the close now and go to the desktop, it has already also created a publish file which we can use. So now what we'll do is we'll open Visual Studio and just try to deploy a sample application from there. So I have Visual Studio running. I just create a new project. I'll select .NET Framework application. And I'm running Visual Studio 2019, but you can follow the same on any other version as well. Let's name it. Application, I'll select .NET Framework 4.7.2. I'll select MVC from here. I'll leave this configure for HTTPS unchecked for the time being. It's just for this demo. And let me just create this project. So the project is now created. So we're not going to make any changes to it. So by default, it will just launch a default MVC page, which we get. Let's just quickly have a look. This is the default page which we are going to deploy to our instance. So what we can do is you can just right click on it, select publish. And yeah, before that I'll just connect back to the instance. Somehow it got disconnected. I've copied the password. I'll just copy this file from this machine. I'll copy it to my local machine. It is there. So in my Visual Studio, what I do is in the publish option, you can just import profile. And in the import profile, you just go to desktop where I copied that file and just select this file. So this will import the settings that is required to deploy it to that IS folder. So we'll just have to make some changes. So what you need to do is like go to this machine and just copy the IP address. So in this one, just replace the machine name you see with the IP address, whatever you see. And the password that you copied, the machine password, just place it in here. So now let's see, just try to validate the connection. If you get such message, just click on accept. And we can see it check mark, the connection succeeded. Just make sure you have used the correct IP address here. That will be the default site name which we created that time. Username should be administrator, because if you remember, we granted this user permission to deploy. And the password, just save password here also, and then just click on next. I just select configuration as release and I'll save it. So my settings are updated, so let's try and publish it. You can see the publishing has now started. And the publish has now succeeded. So it will automatically launch a browser window. So we'll just try to connect to that instance again and see what happens now. It may take a few minutes to initialize as we are running it for the first time. And yeah, as you can see now, going to that URL, we are now getting the default ASP.NET. So we can see our MVC application has now been deployed through Visual Studio. And just to confirm, I'll go back to the instance, and if you remember, we created a folder in C drive, inetpub, wroot. If you see inside this folder, if you see, my contents of my MVC application has been copied and deployed here. It's running as well. And if I want to do any changes also, so let me just change the default view. Just change it in ASP.NET to running. I can just save it and then let me just publish it again. So it won't take this much time now, because already initially we have deployed it once. And now you can see, if just copy and hit this URL again, as you can see, the changes have now been deployed also. And I can make any changes, and directly from Visual Studio I can deploy and publish it here, as long as my settings are correct. So this is the way we can deploy to Amazon instance, EC2 instance using this. But yeah, as I said earlier, like this will work for any instance in which you have Windows Server installed. So it's not anything specific to AWS EC2. You can have any server running on Windows Server 2019, 2016 and all, and you can do similar settings to make it configurable. So now my instance is done, so I can just go and terminate it. And okay, thanks for watching the video. If you like it, just subscribe to it. Thank you.